What precisely brought you here?
Well, thank you, Shaka. I have been in the United States for a little over a week. I came to attend, on behalf of the President, the UN high-level meeting on HIV AIDS. You know, it's exactly 30 years since the disease HIV, the HIV sickness was recognized. And since then, the world has been doing a lot to try to combat the disease. And it's exactly 10 years since the first high-level meeting on strategies to combat HIV/AIDS was held. And so this meeting was to review the progress that has been made. And the progress is positive. There's been a slowdown of 20% in new infections globally. And a lot of the success stories are in Africa. And so we came to review the progress that had been made and then also look at what new strategies to put in place going forward. And so we discussed country national strategic plans. We all had the opportunity to give a 5-minute presentation on what we're doing locally. And Ghana has just come up with a new national strategic plan, which aims by 2015 to eliminate virtually mother-to-child transmissions so that innocent children will not be born infected just because their mothers were infected. We're also looking to reduce stigma to zero.
Stigma.
Yeah, and discrimination against HIV patients to zero.
How big is that? Is it a huge problem, the problem of stigma?
Yeah, the problem of stigma is a problem. It's quite a big challenge. Most people don't understand the disease. And so they believe that if one is infected, you know, associating with that person can, you know, cause them to have the disease, you know. And so we keep educating people. And also what happens is stigma and discrimination drives people under. And so they're not willing to identify that they have the virus, and it makes it more difficult for you to deal with. And so we've launched a very successful campaign in Ghana. Traditional rulers, you know, religious leaders have all appeared in advertising, you know, calling on people to not stigmatize people who have HIV and deal with them, you know, with compassion. And it's been very successful.
Were there any particular or specific lessons that you learned during that conference in New York? Yeah,
we shared experiences. And incidentally, one of the experiences we shared from Ghana, and I mentioned it, and later I got a lot of inquiries about it, is the issue of sexual orientation. That is, we have what we call hotspots, commercial sex workers, and then we have men having sex with men, you know, and it's not something that is fashionable in Africa. And there's very huge, you know, cultural animosity to people who have that sexual orientation. So one, it's not easy to identify who these people are. And if you can identify them, how do you reach them, you know, with the life-saving, you know, information and treatment that they require. So that's one of the challenges we have faced. Generally, our prevalence rate has come down from almost 4%. We currently have reduced it to 1.5%. Among sex workers, we've reduced the prevalence rate from 80% to 25%, and we're still working amongst them to bring it down further. And then we don't have reliable statistics on homosexuals or men having sex with men because people are not, you know, willing to openly identify as being that, you know. And so we're still trying to see how to gather statistics on, you know, that segment. But we estimate that prevalence rate should be anywhere between 20 and 25%. And, but we'll know when we are able to gather more statistics.
So what did you do in Houston?
In Houston, we had very, very fruitful meetings with energy companies and companies in oil and gas. You know, Ghana has just, you know, started a fledgling oil industry.
Right.
And there are some companies operating out of Houston that are actually involved in working in Ghana. And there are others that are interested in coming to work in Ghana. And so we had a meeting that was hosted by the Greater Houston Partnership. They call it GHP. And they brought all the energy and oil and gas companies together. And I made a presentation to them. And then after that, we had a Q&A interactive session. After that, we had direct bilateral meetings with specific companies. I visited the Port of Houston to see how they have modernized that port and are running it efficiently, to see if we could create technical partnerships between them and our ports back in Ghana. It was hugely successful.
I see. What do you think needs to happen in order for you at the end of the trip to say, yes, this trip was definitely successful? What do you have to accomplish in order to reach that conclusion?
Well, I can say for sure, even before the end of the trip, that it's been hugely successful, because we came up with a declaration from the HIV/AIDS conference that is going to guide our work globally, you know, in terms of HIV/AIDS prevention. In Houston, we had a very fruitful interaction, and we're going to get some missions coming, you know, from Houston to Ghana to interact and see how we can build on a technical relationship. Here in Washington, we just came out of a meeting with the World Bank, and absolutely fantastic discussion on some of the challenges that Ghana's economy faces, transiting from a developing economy into a middle-income economy. You know, we've done a rebasing that shows that Ghana's GDP is actually 60% bigger than we had earlier put it to be. But then it means that there are some constraints that we need to deal with, because if you look at our revenue to GDP, 12% of GDP is too low for a middle-income country. So we need to put reforms into the revenue agencies and so on and so forth to ramp up revenue and many other indicators.